And that's true, so that's one reason to shy away from the smallest aperture possible. But depth of field is a big deal. And depth of field is a real challenge with gigapanning with a large throw lens. Because you're going to be zooming in because you can. And that way you get this fabulous resolution. You can see trees in a forest at sub-millimeter resolution on the bark. But when you do that and you zoom in all the way, you get very shallow depth of field. And so first of all, you've got to have autofocus on in a situation like that, or you need things to be more or less planar, or you need to have a very small iris. But if you have a very small iris, then you've got this problem of diffraction, and suddenly the picture is softer than you intended, and you've lost some of that sharp focused detail that you were interested in. So that's the trade-off, and it's worth experimenting with that trade-off to try and achieve the best results possible. Again, middle of the road is what matters. Often you don't zoom in all the way. Of course, remember when you do that to set the field of view again on the GigaPan Epic Pro so that it knows how many degrees to move per picture. And often you're going to go for something in the middle where the ISO is larger and allows you to have a smaller iris and still not have a super long shutter speed. That's the key things that I want to cover in order to give you an idea of those general settings. Now let me go through a few other settings, but before I do that, on the menu side, I want to show you how to mount the camera. So mounting this camera on top of the Epic Pro involves first attaching the connector that's designed for the GigaPan unit, and then we'll bring in the Pro, and we'll simply use the quick release to actually mount it in. Typically, of course, I'm doing this on top of a tripod. I'm going to do it on a table right now instead, just so that I have the ability to show it to you without need of a tripod, and we can lock it if we like. So now we've got our unit on top. Now, to deal with the nodal point issues, what we would be doing is we would be adjusting up-down from these screws on the sides, and then we would be adjusting this fore-aft for the nodal point fore-aft. And of course, in the fore-aft direction for the nodal point, it depends on the zoom. So as you zoom in, the nodal point is going to move back. And as you zoom out, the nodal point is going to move forward in the lens system. So that's the key issues that you're going to deal with. In this case, with this Canon, this is the correct cable that we use, and I'm going to go ahead and plug in the cable into the unit, just so that I can do one quick panorama with you to give you an idea of what it looks like when you're actually using it. So now we'll end by just doing one very quick panorama in here and going through all the controls set up for that. I'm going to turn the camera on first. And I've got my camera on, the lens cap is off, that's good. I'm going to go ahead and adjust my exposure, and I'm going to have a nice open aperture in this case until I'm happy with how things look. There we go. I'm going to take a test picture. I'm going to go to manual focus in this case. Good. So now I'm happy that I'm getting good pictures out of the system. You can't see it, but trust me. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn the GigaPan Epic Pro on and show you the process that I'd go on from here. I've got the trigger in, the remote trigger in. So I'm happy with my pictures. I'm in manual mode. I'll go ahead and turn on this system. And once this is on, I'm going to choose New Panorama. Set camera zoom and hit OK when you're done. I am done, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And I'm going to move the camera to the upper left. In this case, I'm just going to take a silly picture of my bookcase. So here's my bookcase. This means that at home, I'll be able to review all the books on my bookcase. Always a useful thing. There we go. So there's a 9:9 picture. GigaPan Epic shot. Show panorama? No. Let's go ahead and take the pictures. So it's going to take 81 pictures. And I'll hit OK. And in gory detail, I'm going to have the bindings of about 40 books in very, very extreme detail. There's a checklist that comes on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and click through the checklist. It's making sure that my white balance is locked, and my exposure is locked, and my focus is locked. And in this case, it is. I did the focus by hand. I'm putting my hand here because I don't want this thing to fall over since it's on a table rather than on a tripod. And indeed, it's taking pictures, and it's taking it through the remote trigger. Now, we're not going to wait for 81 pictures to get taken, so I'm going to pause it. So just to review, the most important things for you to worry about are get the nodal point aligned appropriately, especially if you're taking pictures where you have objects at varying distances, so that parallax is an issue. Make sure that as much as possible you can deal with the trade-off between shallow depth of field and the iris size and diffraction and vignetting. So large iris, you're going to have some vignetting, so you want to keep it smaller than the largest opening for that reason. But small iris, you're going to have diffraction. And be sure to adjust time per picture on the Epic Pro and the shutter method so that you're getting the best possible pictures you can in the ordering that makes it all work well. Good luck.